Hi, my name is Hannah, and today we will interview Sam. Sam, based in New Zealand, and described himself as a podcaster, two-time Amazon best-selling author, a CEO and co-founder, and keynote speaker. Today he shares his views on important trends as we emerge into a post-pandemic world.
This podcast channel is about you, successful international entrepreneurs, successful expats, successful investors. Sponsored by HTJ Tax.
And we're live. Sam, how are you this morning? Good morning to you.
Very good, thanks. How are you, Derren?
I am pretty good, thank you. I appreciate your time. It's great to connect with you. And for those who may be watching on YouTube or maybe listening to us on one of the podcast platforms, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So my name is Sam Kamani. I am currently based in New Zealand, but over the last 15, 20 years, I've worked predominantly with a lot of tech startups. Um, I've had two exits in past, one from an e-commerce company, one from an esports company. Currently, I do a couple of different things. One, I have my own podcast called Want Money, Got Money, where I interview um, founders of tech startups who have managed to raise funding and build a successful startup, or I interview VCs, investors, angel fund managers, people like that on what makes them invest in a company. So that's part of it. And apart from that, I own an agency where or co-own an agency where we build SaaS products and mobile apps and things like that. And yeah, I write books. So
Wow,
one one
you're
of the
really
book I
busy.
yes, but I love all this. I love
Sure.
making content. I love sharing, and I actually just got started with all this a year and a half ago.
Wow.
um so this is one of the book I wrote this year, which is Business in Time of Corona. It's all about how to pivot. So if you are facing a challenging time and you think it is time for your business or your startup to pivot, this is the book for you. How I got started into writing was last year with this book, The 30-Day Startup.
Wow.
Me and my co-author, we just thought, you know what, we have all this knowledge. We
Yeah.
are working with founders and we come across all these stories. So let's write about how to build and start a tech startup in 30 days. And so we wrote that book in 30 days because we wanted to be true to our mission, practice what we preach. So yeah, and that book did really well. Tens of thousands of people have bought it all around the world, mostly just in US actually, like 80% US, and then 20% outside US. Um, and so after that, I thought, you know what, I should go out, start speaking at events and things. So now every week I go on 5 or 6 different podcasts as a guest speaker. And before this, I was going to 1 or 2 events a week as a speaker. But because there are no more physical events,
Mhm.
at least for the next 6 to 9 months, I thought, you know what, I'll um, go on podcast and meet interesting people like you, Darren.
Okay.
So that's why I'm here now.
That's amazing. So, well, let's talk about the whole idea of pivot. So, I mean, you obviously you practice what you preach. You were doing live talks, live seminars, but now you,
Yes.
like many of us, you're doing everything online. So, like, what are the key trends you think that business owners, entrepreneurs need to consider as we enter these uncertain times?
Yeah. So, one of the like the easiest or the short-sighted way is that I'll just go online. But I think that is not the approach that everyone
Yeah.
should take. What I believe is that the first thing anyone should do
Mhm.
is look at your own strengths and capabilities before you just move things online. So for example, in my case, I was already going out, I was mentoring
Mm-hmm.
in different universities, incubators, accelerators where startups are born. So I was doing those things on offline
Mm-hmm.
anyway. And so I looked at, what are my strengths, what are my assets and connections, where do they lie? So I just went and pivoted in that direction to maximize those things,
Mm-hmm.
maximize those assets. For example, a friend of mine has a business where they lease cars. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a small sort of car leasing. It's not one of the big ones like Avis and Hertz and one of those big ones. um, so an independent one. Now he had like 200 trucks, 200 camper vans, 200 vans, like all like few hundred vehicles. And so his asset or his strength was having all those things. Now there is no tourism left in most parts of the world at the moment. Travel and tourism is highly affected, and that's who used to rent those. But instead of just moving online is not going to do anything for someone like that sort of a business.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they looked at their assets, their strengths, what is their strength and what is their key asset, and that was all these vehicles. At the same time, there was another opportunity arising in home delivery of pretty much nearly every single thing, because there is lockdown, only thing you can do is get
Mm-hmm.
home delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So they started, there was such a mad rush to all the couriers and Uber and things like that, and there's a lot of people who have at the same time lost their jobs, who can easily drive a car. So they started leasing out all their vehicles to all these people who wanted to get up and start it, as small trucks, small vans, and all sorts of things, to immediately adapt to grocery delivery and pretty much every sort of delivery of every sort of product.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what they did. And there are numerous cases of these. Like there is still like a very high end craft beer
Mm-hmm.
brewery bar in Sydney,
Okay.
Australia,
Yeah.
where instead of just moving online, what
Mm-hmm.
they realize is that their key strength is making alcohol or processing alcohol, because they used to brew their own thing.
All
And
right.
they had the key decision. They had like 25 employees, to either let them go, close the bar down because there's no patronage, there is no one coming in,
Mm-hmm.
people are not allowed to go to restaurants and sit close, and that's what happens in bars, people sit close and all that. So they immediately adapted their equipment to
Mm-hmm.
process and make high-end hand sanitizer, because all most of the hand sanitizer looks really cheap and nasty in a plastic bottle. They made like really high-end because they were making high-end craft beers which sold like 5 times. And so they made hand sanitizer that sells 8 times the regular retail, I mean the other cheap ones.
Yeah.
And it became so successful that they had to hire 35 more employees to manage that. So instead of just looking at going online, I
Mm-hmm.
would say the first thing is look at your own strengths and assets that you have that you can repurpose. Yes, in many cases, going online would be the right thing. But in many cases, if you just take that route, you might be missing out on some massive hidden opportunities that you could unearth. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, these are all great stories, and to be fair, I think it's good that these stories are being told because so much of the narrative around what's happening right now is on the negative side. You know, people losing their
Yes.
jobs, big businesses closing down. So it's good to get these rays of hope. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, so for the average, I mean, to be fair, this health crisis, I mean, I don't mean to sound really cold, but it's played to your strength in the sense that you were
Yeah.
already in the online space, right?
Yeah.
It's something that you're already doing. So now that so much of our daily routine, of our behavior has shifted online, it's
Yes.
presented itself as a fantastic opportunity for people who were already in that space, like yourself.
Yes.
But okay, I mean, but that is, I don't know, it just seems to be a really big stretch for the average person who was still in that old way of thinking to
Yes.
imagine converting what they're doing right now into a model that makes sense given what's happening. So maybe what you
Yeah.
can do is, okay, I mean, these are all great stories, and I guess we can go on for days
Oh,
seeing that
yes.
this
There's
space
so
in which you
many.
play. But what are the trends, or what are the hints, what are the opportunities, what are the nuggets that the average business owner could look at as they seek to transition? I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's about going
Be-
online. Yeah, I get
Now,
that.
yes. Yeah.
What exactly?
Okay. So it depends on industry. Every
Yeah.
industry, every niche is different. If you give me
Mhm.
an example of any niche, I might think on my feet and try and come up with an
Okay, I'm
example
in
of
the
how
event,
they
so
could.
I know lots of people in the event management business. You know, they were
Yes.
PMPs. You know, they were qualified event planners. They were organizing conferences. They were doing entertainment for like product launches for real estate
Yes.
projects.
Excellent, excellent industry
What are these
aspects. They
guys
have
going to do?
so much to. Okay, there's okay. I'll give you an example of what these guys
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
because I was supposed to. So I uh, go around and speak at events. That is what I used to do last year, especially with promoting my books, my businesses, everything. And now there are no events. Last year, earlier this year in March, I was supposed to go to Dubai and present to 500 investors on tech startup and things like that. So I was really counting on that, and then that got cancelled. And not only that, numerous other events where I was booked out for,
Hmm.
all those got cancelled.
Yeah.
So I have personally experienced
Hmm.
what some have done and what some have not done. So I have seen the successful ones as well as I've seen the unsuccessful ones.
Okay.
So now it depends on where you stand. If you are an independent person or you have a small agency of 2 or 3 people just doing small local events, there is a fantastic opportunity to go to the corporates and businesses in your area and train them how to run a webinar, how to do YouTube live sessions, how to do LinkedIn live, Facebook live,
Mm-hmm.
IG live, or all those sort of things that those people need training, and you can start doing by that. How you would start is by doing pitching a free workshop, free type event, which you run of course on webinar, which will give you a practice as well, and it is just a first half an hour, 1 hour hook.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. Now that is for the small independent person. That is
Mhm.
the opportunity that exists in training.
Yeah.
The second one is if you have a larger agency, 25 people, 30 people, 40 people, you cannot do this sort of one-on-one training, or it will
Mhm.
be very time consuming and all that.
Mhm.
In those cases, you would pitch a package to events. So you have to remember when these events used to happen. So when these big conferences used to happen, and I've been to lots of these big ones in LA, in Vegas, in San Francisco, everywhere around, like in North America, being in few different industries, and some even used to have 5,000 different companies from all around the world who used to present and showcase their products and things. All these companies are still looking. They are still, a lot of them are, say, FMCG businesses, or like consumer goods or food and beverage businesses. They're still looking for a platform to meet their traders, their suppliers, customers.
Mhm.
And so you would pitch an online conference type thing, and you would, and if you have the resources, you're a 25, 50 people agency, event agency, you would pitch them that it will be a done for you event, and you would invite multiple companies, and you could do something at a much larger scale. Now, to enable this, all different types of software as a solution, or like SaaS products are available to enable you to run this these days. So that's what you would do
Okay,
um,
I got you. I
in
got you.
that
I'm with you
case.
now. So, in other words, okay, Start with the obvious, appreciate, embrace, accept everything is online. So the question becomes really, how can I just, adapt my product offering online? Okay, I get that. I get that.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is online, but there
mhm,
would be ways of doing this offline, and moving some of these offline, as well. So you have to remember that back in the days, like when you used to go to trade shows and events and conferences,
mhm,
you would get merchandise, and all these merchandise businesses
mhm,
could connect with people who are running webinars and say that, hey, let's get whoever attends your webinar, the full session, let's send them a merchandise pack. They
mhm.
should be reaching out to those sort of people as well. So there would be an opportunity for all sorts of things that you have to see that, okay, if you were an event business, you were enabling X meet with Y. That's probably the purpose of most of the events, X meet with Y. How can you still enable that? Can you enable that in any offline way that is permitted in your region, or do you have to go online, or can you do both? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, and here's a challenge with that. So I'm with you, right? I am
Yes.
with you. But there are just so many fraudsters. There are so many fake gurus. I watched this YouTuber called CoffeeZilla. I don't know if you've heard of him. And
Yes.
he's committed to unmasking these fraudsters. Yes,
Yes.
they do start with freebies, and then they have, of course, this amazing sales funnel, and they rope you in
Yes.
for some serious high ticket training that you're
Yes.
guaranteed to be able to make lots of money online. And of course, the horror stories are too
Yes.
numerous to mention. So, how do
You
you
have
know
to,
whether the
yes, you
course
have to
really doing is
realize
real?
that all these fraudsters and fake gurus are in one space, and that is B2C space,
Okay.
business to consumer space. So
Hmm.
they are the business, they're only selling it to individual mom and dad type people who are really gullible, who will get caught in that. The all the examples I gave you were all in the B2B space, because that's where most of the event industry exists. So you would, if you were an individual event organizer, manager, you would go to the other business and deal with them, because what happens is that a B2B relationship is generally a very long term. It doesn't get started instantly, and in many cases these event organizers were already working with those businesses, so it is not a new relationship that they would have to even form. So
Mm.
yeah.
So, okay, so you're saying you know you're kind of safer to venture into the B2B space as opposed to the B2C space. Is that what we're saying?
um, I'm not saying it's safer, but it's a
Right.
bit of a long term relationship, and this was
Mhm.
just an example of
Okay.
this industry, this niche. I'm happy to go through any niche, throw it
No,
out to me,
okay,
and
so
I'll
all
see.
right, because this is
Yeah.
something that comes up all the time, at least
Yes.
when we're talking. Because right now, you just run any YouTube video. If you do it on a mobile device, you're
Yes.
inundated, depending on which market you're in, especially if you're in the US, you're inundated every few minutes. There's an ad, and
Yes.
someone convinced that they can turn you into God's gift into to online selling.
I know. I
So,
know. Yes.
okay, so I get, okay, pay attention to B2B over B2C. What else could we do
If you
to,
want to build a long-term business,
yeah.
B2B is the way to go. B2C is a lot of work, and it is very, very competitive, and you need a lot of money for ads, unless you are like someone like Gary Vee, or someone who is already starting with a massive audience, who have built over the last 15 years. It's like yesterday I was interviewing a founder of a tech startup, and I said, how did you get your first 6,000 users that you've got? You're only 1 week old. So he said that, oh, before this, for 3 years we were organizing real world events, 12 events a week across 5 cities in US, and
Mhm.
we already had a database of 20,000 people that we had one-on-one connection with, my team had.
Mhm.
So out of those 20,000, 6,000 converted into users. So you are doing the right thing. You are building
Mhm.
your audience, you're building your own Derren Joseph brand,
Mhm.
that you would over time have enough following that you can anything you start, you have somewhere you're not starting from zero, you are starting from 5 or 10 or 5,000. So yeah.
Okay, so if I can take away from that, I would say beware or be wary of anyone who's promising quick wins. Overnight success really, when you dig into it, it's a result of years of preparation. Like the example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm with that because I always think, what if somebody's promising you something and it's too good to be true? It probably is. So yes.
Yeah.
So if I have my business, I need to migrate, I need to adapt, I need to pivot, right? Then I'm
Yes.
looking for coaches. I'm looking for opportunities that are, they're realistic. They're not quick wins,
Yeah.
not an overnight success. Uh,
Yeah.
I know I need to put in hard work. Maybe I can leverage the user base or the connections that I already have. Okay, with
Yes.
you.
Yeah, yeah. So let me give you an example. I was in the herbal supplement business. We sold direct to consumer. This is in 2007
This
to
is Herbalife.
2000. No, no,
Okay.
Herbal Ignite. No, no, Herbalife is different. That's more of a multi-level marketing.
Yeah, yeah.
I own my own brand. That
I
is
see.
massive difference.
Sure, sure.
So Herbalife owns their own brand. So they make all the money. The value is in the brand name because of
Yeah.
over 20 years, you are pushing someone else's brand name.
Mhm.
So I own my own brand. We
Okay.
did our own manufacturing, which is a completely different ball game.
Okay.
So you have to deal with all the regulation and everything, and yep, and it's not sold person to person like Herbalife. Ours was just sold direct to consumer. 2007, it was very different world. 13 years ago
Yeah.
compared to now, many things went online, and we were not doing retail, we were just doing online and through phones, and what do you call, like through catalogs and like direct to consumer infomercials and all those sort of things. And yeah, we sold in US, Australia, some parts of like Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I used to like every year there used to be this event where all the companies in New Zealand, like 200 companies who are in the same industry, would gather together. We would have one big gala dinner. We would have for the weekend, and we'd have award nights, and
Hmm.
we'd give out award to someone who has increased their sales by multi-million dollars, or few hundred million, whatever it might be, and and achieved extraordinary success, like an industry leader. Once a like one company a year would be chosen and given that award, who did the best in across all criteria. And one of the lady, like the entrepreneur, she got the award for that year for her company in, I think, in beauty industry or something, and she did really well.
Hmm.
um, Across all the markets and everything. And then she came up to stage, and this is the first thing she said: "Oh, thank you so much. We are an overnight success of 25 years." So that's because the thing is that from the outside it looks like, oh wow, they got this award, they're so successful, but
Yeah.
people don't see the 25-year or 15-year or 8-year grind. It's like, when did
True.
Gary Vee start? He started like 15 years ago,
Mhm.
and for the fast first, or probably even more than that, for the first 6 7 years, he was just grinding out on Twitter, connecting with people, replying to DMs every day, 5 hours a day. Like, he was just grinding it out, and he was unknown between, like, if you talk to anyone on in 2006, 2009, when he was very active on Twitter, that who's Gary Vee, no one would know his name.
Mhm.
But that's fine, because that's when he was building the foundation, and you could not see anything on the surface because it's under the surface. So a bit like the duck that's swimming, it's paddling furiously under the water, but you can only see it still on top of the surface. So yeah, that's what you are doing as well right now, I think. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, and I guess all of us or those of us who see this as a long-term endeavor,
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Gary Vaynerchuk as well. The idea of there's no overnight success. You need to be able to put in the grind, as you say, for
Yeah.
the next 5, 10, 15 years before you
Yeah.
start seeing reasonable returns on your effort. And, being open-minded, the idea of being able to pivot as attention moves from one platform to the other. So I'm
Yes.
I'm with you now. I was speaking to another business owner probably earlier this week, and he was again selling stuff online, and we were talking about like the supply chain story to the extent how much supply chains have been disrupted by the health
Yes.
crisis going on. So for you, for your businesses, for the people in your network, how have you guys adapted to the delays, the disruption that has been the supply chain experience this year?
Yeah. Um, Luckily, in New Zealand, it
Yeah.
has been very good. We don't have community transmission and all that, and we just go hard, we go early.
Mhm.
So we've been lucky in that. But
Mhm.
everything in the world is connected. We live in a global world. Everything is made across the world. So sometimes you use a phone and there would be parts made in 40 different countries
Yep.
in your phone, like from minerals to materials to chips to so many
Mhm.
people around the world get together
Mhm.
to make a phone possible.
Yep.
So I mean, that's just one example. And so I was just talking with my neighbor,
Mhm.
and they are super busy right now, their company, but they cannot get stuff in the country because
Mhm.
they have do something so specialized
Mhm.
that they have to import things from overseas,
Yeah.
and like the machinery and stuff.
Mhm.
um so it is very challenging. First of all, I acknowledge that all around the world. However, you have to realize that anything we do as a founder of a company, entrepreneur, as a company business owner, is to solve other people's problems. Whether we make a burrito or or tacos, or it's to solve someone's hunger or someone's problem, or make some machinery to solve, they want to do X, Y, and Z, we provide them whatever they need to solve their problem. So the once again it comes down to is looking deeper into what is the problem you are solving.
Mhm.
And so you're unable to solve because you don't have the part or the machinery. So finding out, is there any other way you can solve that problem in the interim while the supply chain catches up on the orders or things like that. Now it would be so specific to
Mhm.
to the industry, to the niche. So random example, like not really just made up one, is like you sell tacos and you run out of like taco shells, and so can you substitute the shell with a bread or a pita bread or something else, and go about solving your customers problem. It could be a manual solution, it could be something else, but once again, look at what your current assets are, what your current strengths are, and how we can solve your customers problem.
I like that. I like that. It reminds me of a meme that I saw on Instagram when I was just like scrolling through. I think it was attributed to Elon Musk. I don't know how true it is, but it makes sense.
Yes.
It said something around the line, along the lines of, "You're rewarded in direct proportion to the problems you solve." Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. So that's what you're doing. What's the other option? That you close down your taco truck because you don't have taco shells, or you substitute the taco shells, make completely something new. And who knows, just like the cronut was born between a croissant and a donut, you might start something new that you don't even know about yet. Yeah. So
I like that. I like that. I like that message. Persistence, resilience, and just get up and be ready to grind and do what it takes to make.
exactly, do what it takes. You have two options: you do what it takes or close down and go home. So I prefer the do what it takes option any day of the week.
So we're going with the do what it takes option. Sam, thank you for your
Yeah.
time. I appreciate your insight. And and again, I said at the beginning, I have to say it at the end. It's really
Yes.
refreshing to speak with you and get that message
Yeah.
of positivity that can do. And thanks for sharing so much of your of the cases, the anecdotes that you have to really bring to life the idea that this is an opportunity. What we're going through
Yes.
right now is an opportunity. A lot of people are going to make heaps of money if they stay focused and see it through. Sam, thank you very much.
Yeah. No, thank you, Derren, for your time. For anyone who wants to connect with me, ask me anything, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn, Sam Kamani, or look me up on Spotify or any platform, pretty much anywhere you'll find me, and feel free to connect with me, ask me any questions. Happy to help anyone.
And I second that. Sam Kamani, he's the guy. Thank you.
Please subscribe, like, share, and comment below. Our books and upcoming event are available at htj.tax. Email us at help@htj.tax to engage us, to advise on international tax or business matters.